So this is January 23rd, 2021. This is Vancouver UFO Meetup. Our guests are Vanessa and Savannah, living in the UK. They've had experience with UFOs, paranormal activity, reptilians, greys, humanoids, shadow beings, physical effects from activity, and the involvement of family members and friends, which continues to this day. They live in the UK, and they're in our first video with them was on January 2nd of this year. So welcome, Vanessa. Savannah will be on in a few minutes.
Thank you. Hi. Well, I'll start basically from the beginning.
You're
good. Dad, I grew up in the East End of London, and my mum, when I was 4, my mum was hospitalised. She had a mental health breakdown, and that's where she still is. So my dad's mum, my nan, raised me and my brother. My mum's side is Irish, and her dad was an Orangeman in Ireland, which is like a Masonic order. I did write a bit down about that. They're a Protestant order based in Northern Ireland, and it also has lodges in Scotland, England, British Commonwealth, and USA. My nan's surname was Solomons, and my dad, my nan's side is Jewish, but people haven't opened up to explain a lot. There's a lot I don't know about my family's history. So, my first experience happened when I was 4. My dad's flat was right next door to my nan's flat. So we'd be put to bed in that flat, and she'd come through in the morning and wake us up at 7. But I met her at the door. I'd become aware that I was above her. And as she was walking towards my bedroom, I was slightly above her, floating backwards, went through the door in reverse. And I was aware the whole time I could see her. And I went back into myself, looking at her the whole time. So she's waking me up, and I started shouting at her, "I can see you, Nan, I can see you." And she went, "Oh, shut up. You're asleep." Just, and, I got up, and I thought nothing more of it, but that stayed in my head because that was an unexplained thing. My next event happened when I was 6. I was in my nan's flat, and I was sitting at the window, and I was she'd give me dinner, lunch around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and she asked, can she go to the shop downstairs? Because she never left me unattended, and I was okay about it. I said, yeah, fine. So I'm sitting there eating by myself, and there was a vibration noise. Vroom, 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 vroom. That's like, where's that sound coming from? Where have you gone? Oops. Yeah, I thought, where's that sound coming from? And then outside the window beside me, that started to get a shadow cast over it. And then I've sketched it. Bear with me. Then these guys in a glass bubble park outside the window and just sit there staring at me. And honestly, if I'd have opened the window, I could have touched the glass. I was looking at them, and I got a really good look at them. They had like leather flying jackets on, cream jodhpur trousers, high leather boots. They had like a white helmet with a black rubber trim around it. They had like American flight glasses, like pilots would wear. But they had pale faces and just slit mouths. And they didn't move. They had their hands on a stick, both of them. There was a stick between either of them, and they both had the hand on it together. So it stayed there a while, and then it went back up. Well, my nan returned, and I said, "Oh, Nan, I've seen a helicopter." Back in the day, the helicopters that we used to see in the films were like glass bubble helicopters with the crisscross metal tail rudder. That's what I thought I was seeing. But with my 6-year-old head, I didn't realise, how can a helicopter be up against your glass? There's nowhere for the propeller to go. So that's all I could relate it to. My nan didn't see it. Time went on. When I was 7, I was always told never answer the door. They were strict on this. Don't answer the door. The door knocked, and for some reason, I went and answered it without thinking. And there was a woman standing there. She grabbed me. She grabbed my wrist and she held me tight. I was trying to get away from her, and she was very solid and she didn't let go. So I started yelling. I knew I'd be in trouble, but I started yelling. My nan came along and she tried to part us. My nan didn't know who this woman was. My nan tried to part us. In the end, she had to do a karate chop to separate us. She pulled me into the house and she slammed the door and put all the bolts on. And this woman was knocking on her door for a good hour. It was for quite a while. And she was kind of just slim. She had a scarf, a cardigan, just plain. So I've done a sketch of her. I had around that age as well, when I was outside, always having like walk-ins approaching me in the street. I just thought they were dirty old men. I really thought there's a lot of dirty old men in this area that just keep approaching me and asking me about my mum. And I presumed they were talking about my nan because she was raising me. And they were some bloke, he was hanging around downstairs for ages, and me and my nan hiding behind the curtain inside the house. So like this woman, I was getting a lot of this go on. It didn't stop. This went on and on right through to my teens. And occasionally it still happens now. But it's happened to my sons, Jerome and Reese, as well. When they've been with their girlfriends, they've experienced it too. And I've been with my friends even recently in the last few years, and they can now identify these beings themselves because it's that frequent. They mess up because they're trying to imitate being human. But when you're human, you have certain characteristics you can't help. And like last year, I was in a shopping mall with my friend, and the girl's toilets is really big, blah, blah, blah. I needed the loo, she didn't. She stood there in front of the mirror fixing herself up. I was about to go in the loos, and the store burst open, and 2 6-foot women walked in, and almost robotic with each other. And that made you stand back and say, whoa, that's not normal. One went to go in the toilets, but she said something that was inappropriate, and that made me, you screw your face up. You're like, that's not normal. The other woman, she stood there facing herself in the mirror, didn't move. She did not move the whole time. When I came out of the loos, there's missing time from me and my friend. We don't remember if they left or did we leave. We just remember being gone. There's missing time slot here. But we remember their weirdness, their strangeness. When I was 8, going back to this, my dad took me to the hospital because in our flat we had those old-fashioned toilet unit tank things, and the chain was too high for me to flush. He said that I'd been bleeding and too young to be, so he took me to the hospital. He wanted to get me checked out. My dad was a very authoritarian person. You didn't argue with him. He was firm, heavy-handed, he was a strict person. So I didn't argue with him. We go to the hospital. I'm in a cubicle. Doctor wants to feel my stomach, lays me down. And I was fine with everything until, I don't know, I lay down. He put his hands on me. I went absolutely berserk. They called in 6 to 7 other nurses, everybody trying to pin me down. And I started fighting everyone. I don't want anyone to touch me. It felt like a procedure or something. And that was like, I didn't even know why I was doing this, but I was angry. And I was dealing with my dad. My dad said, wow, she's so strong. what? And he's shouting at me, what are you doing? And I just go, no, get him off me. I didn't know why I was doing it. It doesn't make sense until later on in life, but at that time, it was like a passion. I had to get these people off of me. I didn't want to be held down. I didn't want to be in this hospital environment. Then when I was 11, like I say, Dad used to go out a lot in the evening. He'd work all day, he'd go out in the evening, and it was me and my brother home alone. And one of the Dad's rules was turn all the lights off when you go to bed. We had a set bedtime, 8 o'clock. So I went to bed. I was woke up by the light going on, which was right above my head. So I sat up. My headboard was there, and there was a chest of drawers behind my headboard. So there was space around my bed. And the door behind my headboard to enter my room. So the light come on, and I was woke up. I thought, my dad's back. Sat up, turned around, see who turned my light on. They're standing there looking at me. A man in the middle who looked Dracula-like, with 2 women either side of him. And they were just staring at me. And I was staring at them a long time. I got a good look at all 3 of them. The man spoke to me, but his mouth didn't move. But I could hear him as loud as I'm speaking now. And he was very stern. He said, turn around, lay down, go back to sleep. And I did it. I just did it. And they messed up. They left my light on. I would never leave the light on because I knew how much rage I would hear from my dad about paying the bills and stuff. So that was a no-brainer. I never left the light on. My dad come home and went absolutely crazy. He punched my door. Oh, you left the light on that. And I didn't. And I sat there and I felt something's happened. I couldn't remember it right that second. I was like, why was the light on? My light was on. That this isn't right. It took a while. It took a couple of weeks and the whole thing come rushing back to me. And I daren't tell anyone because who's going to believe me? So I had constant paranormal activity picking up in the house, big time. And it was happening around my brother as well. And then, let me check my notes because being somewhere in yeah, I was dating a boy called Alex, and I was around his house and was in his room, and he was playing the drums. He was teaching me how to play the drums. So I sat on a stool under his light, and the light bulb exploded over my head, and it rained over me in flames. Every shard of glass was on fire, and it just rained over me. And the flames had gone out by the time they hit the floor. But that freaked us out, and that kind of heralded in the start of my electronic phenomena. I would have street lights go on or off when I approached them. I was blowing everything up. My brother banned me from touching any of his electrical stuff. If I went to touch one side of the car and him touch the other, if he's letting me in the car, I would blow him away from the car. I didn't know about aliens or UFOs or anything at that time. I just thought it was ghosts and just paranormal stuff. My psychic ability started kicking in, and I started having dreams. I dreamt about Concorde being on fire 2 days before it was on fire, before it was took out of service. And I told everybody. I was predicting things spontaneously just before that happened, from people falling over, somebody getting hurt, and I'd know when someone was going to pass away. This stuff was going off the scale. What else? Oh yeah, things broke down at home, and I put myself in a children's home to get away from my dad. So my defenses and my like your intuition, I was relying on it a hell of a lot. That really kicked in. and I had to be home to the home by 10 o'clock every night. So I was coming from Whitechapel to Bow. The home was in Bow. This was the bus with the automatic doors that close, so you have to wait for them to open. So I rang the bell, standing there, waiting for my stop, and this man appeared, bang, right beside me. And I looked up at him. He was really smart. He was in black, white shirt, tie, trim, haircut, everything. He looked a bit, he had tan skin, slight ivory skin, but it's his eyes. He looked at me and I just thought, oh my God, he's one of them. He's one of them. But it was different. This was different. He meant business and I was terrified. The bus doors opened and I got out there as quick as I could, and I was trying not to look obvious that I'd clicked on to who he was. I moved like the wind to the traffic lights and I was pressing the button, just like, please stop traffic, I need to cross, I need to run to get to this home. And I nearly threw myself under that traffic because he was coming behind me, and I just thought, oh my God. I managed to run over the road, and the traffic, obviously the lights changed and stopped. I ran across the road. I started running through the flats and I daren't look behind me. I felt him on my heels. I got to the square of houses, and there's a big grass square with poles going around it. I thought, I'll jump across there and run across the grass, because if this guy isn't chasing me, if he isn't after me, if he's suited and booted, he's not going to run on the grass. Oh, I turned around. He'd run over onto the grass. This man's chasing me. He's 6 foot something, and I couldn't breathe. You know, like when you're in a dream and you feel like your legs are stuck and you're trying to keep going, but you can't, but you have to. I ran all the way to the home, and that was quite a way. And I got to the doors and I was just pressing the door. Miss Brown come and open the door. I pushed that door open into her to get past her. I looked back, he was gone. He weren't even in sight. And I was like, I freaked out. So that was another crazy, like, strange event. And thank God for having friends in there. You know, I've made friends with the girls and they comforted me. They see what a mess I was. I was just terrified. And then I didn't like being in there, so I got myself fostered. I was with foster parents for a while. And when I was with them, every Friday I was sick and nobody knew why. I was ill every Friday without fail. And I didn't know what was going on, but I was still having dreams there. I'd come down and tell them about a dream. And then they'd put the news on, and it was on the news. And they're looking at me, and I'm like, I don't know. It was just a dream. So things were really crazy at that time, but kind of normal. Then I looked after, when I was going out with Ronnie, which is Savannah's dad at the time. Well, so I was dating him for 14, and I think I was near 17, 18. We looked after a friend's flat, and we told everybody, oh, we're going to look after Debbie's flat for 3-4 days. So everybody knew where we'd be. Well, we went to sleep at 10 o'clock that night, and it was like nearer winter time, dark in the morning, dark at night. So we went to sleep Saturday night, and when we woke up, he said to me, what time is it? I said, I don't know. So I got up and looked on the windowsill. The clock was on the windowsill. I checked, it said 6 o'clock. But I looked out the window and I went, oh my God, there's kids on buses. It should be Sunday morning. There shouldn't be children on the bus. So it wasn't getting any lighter outside. We got ourselves ready and everything. And I can understand why the street was alive with people going about their business. It didn't add up. As she asked the bloke, I said, what day is it? He said, it's Monday. I said, is it morning or night? And he said it was nighttime. We walked the streets from where this flat was in Stepney Green. We walked through Stepney Green, Whitechapel, Bethnal Green in a daze till about 10:30, 11, because we together had missed all that time and we have no answer for it. I don't care if we'd slept in, somebody would have had a dream, got up to go to the toilet in the night, needed drinks, food, anything. Both of us to be out cold from 10 o'clock Saturday night till Monday night at 6. That don't make sense. And I still didn't know about alien thing at that time. And then a year later, it was less than a year later when I had Reese, my first son. And when Reese was 2, he was quite sensitive. He would tell me he's hearing and seeing people who are not there. He's picking up on stuff, which freaked me out a little bit. But, you know, when I had Jerome 2 years later, and this whole time I was still having paranormal activity at my house. Ronnie was getting pinned down by unseen forces. Things were flying off the wall, nearly hitting Ronnie in the face. I'd have friends coming up to my house that were getting touched on their shoulders. A friend of mine was washing up in the sink. Ronnie had been shot and he brought me this bag of oranges. He put them in the cupboard behind me, and Georgia pulled an orange out of the bowl of water and she went, "What the hell is this? There's no way what he's just bought was in the washing up." She was just doing the washing up. It shouldn't have been in there. I made a joke with him at one point. It was just us two. The kids were in bed. And I said to him, "Oh, keep that up. My nana love you." And he went, "Oh, yeah." And then this sphere appeared in the middle of my kitchen right in front of me. It just went zzz, bang. The sphere looked like one of them plasma balls, what you put your hands on, only bright blue. And it went as big as a plasma ball. And they just exploded with blue light. And he freaked out. And I said, "See, I told you, I made a joke out of it," but it wasn't a joke. When we moved into this property, we put the boys in the first bedroom, and the spare, what was going to be their room, we use that as a box room for now until we unpack to move in the property. And the boys started screaming. There was a shadow man at the window holding a gun, and he had a hat like Zorro. So we checked the property and there was nobody there, but that was the beginning of a different scenario in that property. Then Reese and Jerome were laying on the bed and their cousin was round and they were playing Xbox or, you know, a computer. And the boys come running into the kitchen screaming at me and Catherine, Ronnie's sister, saying that somebody had been punching underneath the bed, and then they'd lifted the bed up with all 3 boys on it. Their toys were going off by themselves. So the boys were starting to really experience a lot of stuff by themselves. And Jerome said one night, "Mum, Jesus come to me last night." Well, not Jesus, but he explained, "It sounds like Jesus to me." He said, "This man come in my room last night, Mum." I said, "Okay, what did he look like?" He said he was tall, and where he stood was all the light, and further down the room got darker away from him. I was like, "Right, what did he do?" He said he just stood there looking at me, Mum. He goes, "And I was looking at him." He said he had a wooden stick in one hand and a book under his arm in the other. And he said out of the book was gold writing, but the writing was in lights, gold lights. And it said the Book of Life. And this man had like shaggy hair. I said, "What was his eyes like?" He said, "Mum, they were just white lights." And he said, then the man said to me to go in the cupboard at the top in the morning and find this mobile phone. So he wanted to look in the cupboard to find this mobile phone. So these cupboards in this property had not been up to the top of them because they were so high. So I had to carry Jerome up to let him reach up in there, and there was a mobile phone in there with them first Motorola style big fat ones. My son was 6 years old. You never seen a smile across his face so big in your life. It was so chuffed. But to me, that was verification that the visit happened. And I was like, wow, something is really going on here.